Welcome to the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez, where we talk everything real estate. Today, my guest is Ed Rogers from Honest Real Estate. Ed, welcome to the show.
Pat, thanks for having me on again. It's a pleasure.
Now, this is officially the anniversary show.
Yep.
You were my first guest 2 years ago. I can't believe it's been 2 years plus that this show's been going on. But thank you for coming in, and I insisted you got to come back for the anniversary, right? So. Before we jump into some of the questions I have for 2024 and 2025, just tell me a little bit about you, Ed Rogers, and Honest Real Estate.
Okay, my name's Ed Rogers. I'm the broker owner of Honest Real Estate. This picture is from years ago. Our brokerage, we're licensed Pennsylvania and New Jersey. We do a lot of business Northeast Philadelphia, and surrounding suburbs, and then stuff down the shore points like Wildwood. We have a great team right now, a team of over 100 agents that are striving, to fulfill their goals and their dreams.
Great. Okay, so I was going to sort of comment that, in this short 2 years, you kind of aged a little bit, just a little bit.
A lot of stress over here at Honest Real Estate.
Okay, so let's jump into 2024.
Okay.
What did you see in 2024? Was there any, major challenges? Was there anything that really caught you off guard or by surprise in the real estate market?
When are we talking about like buyers and sellers?
Buyers, sellers,
okay.
Anything.
Yeah, so I've been dealing with the challenges for the buyers on the interest rates. A lot of these buyers think the interest rates are going to go back down to the 3s and the 4s and stuff like that. So we're trying to educate them on that might not happen for quite some time if that ever does happen again. So we're dealing with those challenges on the buyer side for sure. And then the sellers are in a position where they might have a 3% interest rate or 4% interest rate, and they're scared to sell because they don't want to go into a higher interest rate on a new purchase. They want to access that equity, but it's hard for them to get a hold of it without paying a higher interest rate than what they currently have.
Okay, and then so there was interest rate challenges. How about inventory? Because inventory, I guess real estate's local, so it depends where you're looking at, what zip codes. But, what did that look like for you in 2024?
Yeah, so because we do a ton of business in Philadelphia, it's really neighborhood based. It's zip code based. Like if you use the Port Richmond section or the 19134 zip code, depending on what you're looking to do, there's a lot of inventory. So if you're a buyer, you have pretty much pickings. You can pick anything you'd like. If you're a seller there, it's a little bit harder because it's a supply and demand issue. If you moved up to the Parkwood section or the 19154 section where our office is located, it's harder for buyers because there's not as much inventory, and it's better for sellers. So a lot of it is just based on where you're looking, what your price point is and what you're trying to achieve.
Okay, so you would say in 2024, when your agents would come to you, their biggest complaint would be, or hardship would be, hey, these interest rates, people are unrealistic, or the inventory. It would be one of those two would be basically the biggest issues?
Yeah, and then so for a situation right now, I have a really good friend looking to purchase. So I'm helping him find a home. He's looking in Bucks County. So he got over the interest rate. We got over the interest rate objections, and he decided, okay, I'm going to pursue and buy a home for my family. Now we're in a position where there is no inventory. So you have homes that are 500, 600,000, and they need total renovations. So you get into a point where, okay, you have a buyer that wants to do it, but now they're dealing with, I have to buy this home for top price, have a high interest rate, and I have to do a total renovation of a home in order to get into an area that I want to be in. So it's difficult sometimes, but I think everybody seems to overcome it.
Right. Okay. So it's what pretty much everybody's saying: interest rates, inventory. Obviously it depends, where you're at.
Correct.
Okay. So let me ask this question: in 2024, we had the North settlement.
Yep.
What kind of impact did you see that happen on your business, your agent's business, if anything?
I think in the beginning when it was coming out, which you've talked about for years, and for the record, I thought you were crazy to talk about this lawsuit for so much, but I think all of us that have listened to your podcast have learned so much from what you've provided to us. I think when it started, when it really started coming out, for me, as a broker of a company, I've explained to our agents that it truly is, in my opinion, business as usual, right? You should still have buyer signed buyer agency contracts. You should have still presented listing contracts a certain way. So to me, things didn't change except for wording and contracts. One thing I've analyzed, which I haven't told you this yet, but in 2024, in all of the closed transactions in our company, we did not see a buyer pay commission one time. The seller paid commission 100% of the time on every property that was sold through our company. Now, every company is a little bit different. Right. Every agent's a little bit different, but it's a simple conversation. If you're a buyer, hey, is the seller paying commission? It takes a little bit more work, but I think we've all got used to it. We've all gotten over the hurdles of it. And as agents in any company, in any state, we always seem to work together and work through it to help our clients.
Right. And what you mentioned, it's just conversation, it's education.
Correct.
And me personally, I'm not a realtor, but me personally, I think it's a good thing because you're actually having a conversation. So instead of saying, hey, I'll meet you at the property, maybe you're saying, come into the office, let me go over numbers, let me explain everything to you, let me explain the process. So the more education, the more information people have, generally is never a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we've seen some of our agents really step up to the plate too and put together really good buyer agency, like consultations, I would call them, where they're educating the buyers on the process. I think buyers that are coming into the homes, like before 2024, maybe you would get an internet lead and you would just show the property. Now I think you're getting internet leads and we're watching the conversations happen up front. Hey, we have to sign a buyer agency agreement. We have to get you pre-approved. We can't see homes until those things happen. I think it's making the entire business better practice. And it actually protects sellers' homes as well, because you know who's going into these properties at this point.
Hey, and I also believe by you turning around and really taking the time with the buyer, you would never go on a listing appointment or list a property without having a conversation.
Correct.
So now you're actually giving respect to the buyer.
Correct.
To that same level, really having that conversation in the very beginning.
You're setting the proper expectations up front, which is what we should be doing.
And now the one thing, just to sort of end the North settlement, because we did beat that to death. But what I am seeing is buyers buyers agents not being satisfied of what a seller is willing to pay. They're saying, I'm worth 2.5%, I'm worth 3%. So the fact that the seller's paying 2 or paying 2.5%, I'm seeing more where the buyer's agents are actually charging the buyer that 0.5%, that 1/4%, because they're saying, I have value, I'm worth it, which before the North settlement, I never saw.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. I don't know. Are you seeing any of that? Or?
We're seeing a lot of buyer agency contracts that have 2.5% or 3% minimum commission. But I think you become friends with buyers when you start showing them the homes. And if a listing agent is paying, if a listing agent or a seller is paying a buyer brokerage 2.5% commission and your buyer agency agreement says 3%, most agents are just not charging the extra 0.5%. For me, I actually, not that I do many buyer transactions anymore, but I've had buyer agents thank me for negotiating a commission on their behalf. They call me and say, hey, the buyer wants to make an offer. What's the commission? I'm like, 3%. They're like, thank you for negotiating that for me. So it's kind of flipped it a little bit. And, if you decide to charge your client, I mean, that's what you negotiated with your client, and that's fair. That's what all the parties agreed to.
Right. And like I said, I never saw it. If we go back to, 21, 22, never saw it. I'm probably seeing about 20%.
Yeah.
That the buyer's agents are actually, charging a little bit of something, and some of them are like at 2%.
Yeah.
So they're coming back saying, "Listen, we're at 3.
Yeah.
We'll split the difference, 2.5.
Yeah.
But they're still charging that half to the buyer.
Yeah.
On there. But whatever.
You know what the other thing is too is people always say 2.5% and 3%, but commission is negotiable.
Right.
So you could turn around and see a 5% that a buyer has to pay. There is no law that says there is a maximum. It's negotiable. It's just we're all with the mindset of 2.5% to 3%.
Right.
I think is
right. So exactly. And once again, commissions are negotiable. They're
Correct.
negotiable. Yeah, the conversation, they're negotiable.
Everything in real estate's negotiable. I tell people, and they go, "Well, can I negotiate a pool table?" I said, "Absolutely. We could put that in your offer."
Right.
Do you want to negotiate a basketball net they could take with them? Absolutely. A trampoline, anything you'd like, you can negotiate.
Right. Okay, so let's jump to 2025. What are you seeing in 2025? The sales of existing homes, and I say existing homes because we're not counting new construction, ended up falling around 3.94 million, which is a little bit lower than 2023.
Okay.
And if we look at 2021, which 6 million plus, I mean, we're still at low levels
Yep.
of transactions on existing home sales. Do you see 2025 to be a little bit stronger? Do you think it's going to be the same? Because we still have issues of inventory, affordability, all that kind of stuff.
I think for me, it's a hard call on what will happen in 2025. But I have seen a decline in like overall total transactions throughout. But it's for me, it's a hard call that I don't think I can give a proper answer on. I wish I could. Naturally, we would want to see the sales go up,
right,
and increase. We would want to see more sellers sell, more buyers buy, and more transactions happen. But I don't know if that will happen in 2025. A lot of people are asking what happens after election and what happens this and what happens that. And I say, hey, if I had a crystal ball, I would not be a real estate broker.
Exactly.
So I think naturally you would want it to increase naturally, but I don't know if that will happen.
Okay. Now, if you had to say hardship in 2025, what do you think is going to be the biggest hardship for agents, for buyers, for sellers? What do you think that's going to be? Do you still think it's going to be the interest rates going up and down, inventory, or do you think there's something out of the box, something else out there that, we may not be thinking about?
I don't think there's going to be anything outside the box. I think it's going to be the same stuff we've dealt with in 2024, the same objections we're going to get from buyers or sellers, landlords or tenants, whoever you're representing. I think it's going to be the same hardships. I can tell you from experience, the rental rates are going up, but people just don't make the money to pay. So I think at some point, the rental rates start to come back down a little bit on the investing side. There's a lot of vacancies out there because people just can't afford them. But I think the same objections overall for buyers and sellers of, hey, I don't want to pay this. I don't want to pay this. And a seller, I don't want to pay that. So I think it's going to be the same objections.
Okay. Your advice on one activity, two activities, what activity as an agent do you think is the most important that you have to do to stay successful, to continue moving forward, to build your business? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Conversations, like we've talked about plenty of times. I think agents have to have more conversations with more people to continue their business to grow, to start to sustain their business, grow their business, and put their business into the future, I think is conversations.
Okay. So if I'm a new agent and I don't have a book of business, I haven't been a realtor for 5-10 years, how do I have those conversations? Where do I go to have conversations?
We always say start with your friends and your family first. Start with the people in your phone, in your address book. Start telling them what you're doing. Start educating them on what's happening in the marketplace. Start asking them, have they heard of any of their friends, their relatives looking to buy or sell? And just try to have those conversations with people constantly and putting out information that's educational. Some of these, TikTok videos you see, they're funny.
Right.
Are they gaining you business? I don't think so. I think for me as a broker, as an agent I was before, it was always educational based. You put information out there of grants, loans, options for sellers on how to access equity. People start to reach out to you.
Okay.
If you know that people want to access their equity to buy a rental property or a second home or a flip, you can educate them on the options to get it without selling. So I think if you educate the world, you're going to naturally have conversations. People will naturally reach out and start to trust you that way.
Okay, so if you have a cell phone, you can look, you probably have 100, 200, 300, names, numbers, stored.
Yep.
reach out, have those conversations, friend, family, right?
Yep.
Social media. If your buddy who you haven't spoken to in a little bit,
Yep.
little Johnny hits a home run, you're calling, hey, little Johnny hit a home run, congratulations.
Yeah.
Hey, and give the person a call, do whatever. So really just being in front, having those conversations, letting them know what you do, because you want to be a real estate agent.
Yep.
Not a secret agent.
Yeah.
I always say secret agent was the real.
We like in our brokerage, we kind of this year, my focus is to go back to the basics when it comes to the training. Go back to creating conversations, creating leads. I think so many agents focus on things that just don't work. Like I watch it every single day. I think I tell people all the time, this business is so easy. People just make it so hard. And that's really what it comes down to. So like our focus as a brokerage right now for the next 3 to 4 months is strictly about lead generation, getting in front of people, creating leads, conversations, and just get back to the basics. People overthink that.
Okay. And let's end this with what you mentioned to me, which resonated. We have conversations, but you don't think I'm listening. You said you really wanted to get your focus because you weren't as focused last year with it on how can I make my agents as successful as possible.
Correct.
So that you said that is your mission. Correct. So is that part of what you're saying right now?
Correct. I had some distractions in 2024, which I think are normal in life. I have distractions. So like I've been able to overcome some of those distractions, some of those things that were weighing heavy on me. I was able to get past them. And that's why I said my focus is to go back to the basics, go back to what made our company what it is, what it was, and what it will continue to be. And not overthink it, not overdo it, not try to impress the outside world. We're going to stick internally like we've always done. We're not going to focus on the external. It's all going to be internal growth, and that's going to be our focus for this year.
Okay, great. Now, you help people buy real estate.
Yep.
You help people sell real estate.
Yep.
If somebody's a good fit, you're welcome to the
Correct.
Honest Real Estate Herd, right?
Yep.
So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
You can call my cell phone, text my cell phone. My number is 267-231-7212. I would say you can email me, but you can literally pick up the phone and text me, and I'll answer the exact same day. One of our stipulations is if you have over 10,000 unopened emails, you cannot join our company because that means you're not answering people. So before you reach out, make sure you clear your emails because I'm going to make sure I look at those when we sit down and have a conversation.
Well, great. Thanks for coming on the show. Going into the third year. Thank you so much for that. 2 years ago, you started the show. We did an anniversary show a year ago, and now going into the third year, really appreciate your support and your wisdom because it's super important. I mean, this show goes out to primarily agents, and there's a lot of knowledge with other agents of sharing, information because, like you mentioned in this conversation, that agents tend to work together, and you have to. And it's a small community. Even though there's a lot of agents out there, we're still a really small community.
Yep.
And at one point, you're going to cross paths, and everybody has to work together.
It doesn't matter what brokerage you're with. It doesn't matter if you like me or not. The goal is the same. Help a buyer buy and help a seller sell. And if we can all work together on that, I think it's fantastic. And I want to thank you for having me on multiple times. Your commitment to this is huge. I don't know if you understand the impact that you have with all the shows you do, all the information you put out. So on behalf of all the realtors, I want to thank you.
You're the ambassador.
Yeah. And I will update my photo by next year. So I promise. Yeah. So really thank you for always doing what you do as well.
Great. Thank you. Well, that's the Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. Be sure to go on YouTube, The Real Estate Show with Pat Lopez. Check it out. I have some incredible guests like Ed, but I also have 1031 exchange companies. I have attorneys on talking talking about, tax homes, homestead exemptions and all sorts of stuff. There's just a ton of information, on the podcast. So yeah, definitely check it out. It can be a perfect resource for you. Shameless plug for the Real Estate Show. And leave some comments. Tell me some show topics you'd like me to cover in the future. That's really important to me as well. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, the show is Everything Real Estate, no limits, and I'll see you next week.